the guy called me just now, the Domino's pizza. Hold on.
Coming up, so I don't need the speakers. Take away the speakers.
You can use it, man, if you want.
Okay. Yeah.
Hindi pala tayo. Hindi na.
Anyone know how many more is coming? Did you all have a list put up?
Maybe 2 more, but.
Okay, who's from the meat shop? Because this was, okay.
3 of them.
Okay, 3. Because that's why I was asked to do a specific thing. Because it's a specific first aid, you know, that we would normally do for the meat shop. So, but you're gonna be doing CPR as well, right? Okay. And then we'll go through the first aid. How much time did they tell you it had to be here?
1:30.
Yeah, but till when?
3 more.
3:30.
Oh, 3 o'clock? 2:30.
4 o'clock, 4 hours, I told them I can't do it less than 4 hours. So they didn't communicate that with you?
They say 1:30 to 3:30.
I can't do CPR in that time. The CPR is even though you've had it before, it's expired.
Yeah.
So I need to go for 4 hours to get both things in. So, I don't know. Huh?
We are here.
Okay, good. I'm here too, so, all right. Yeah, I sent a message to Mr. Jones. And he said, let me have that mannequin with the head so I don't get that lost and fall off and break. Let me have that, sir. Thank you. Okay, so who knows how to turn the lights on? Or you want to watch this with the lights on? Can you watch this with the lights on?
Yeah.
Right here, Mom.
Can you see? Okay, good. All right, I'm gonna go ahead. I like to start on time. I apologize for rushing, but we had a little bit of confusion where things went and whatnot, how to get here. So some of you I know, as I've trained you before, and some I think are new faces. The best way I can describe myself is I'm Stephen Ryan's mom, okay? Don't tell him I said that. And I am a nurse. I've been a nurse for over 40-something years, and I'm retired, so I do training because I love the passion of nursing. I love the idea of saving lives and doing what we can. Come in. And the more we know, the more we can help people. And that person, good afternoon, the better we are equipped to save those lives. Now, as I said earlier, I have a specific section for the meat shop, which is dealing with hemorrhage, bleeding, things like that this may not cover completely. I do have a first aid kit. Does the meat shop have a first aid kit that's equipped for everything? Because I was told to do a customized one, so that has everything in it, and I'll show you what's in it, so that not every first aid kit that you buy can cope with massive hemorrhage and bleeding, or things that happen when people get cut. Okay, so we'll try to do that. But this, I'm going to go ahead and show the first aid part of it on this, because this does have CPR for adult. Okay, so you're going to watch this, and it saves me from having to talk. I'll be skipping through some of them because they're really not necessary. We are not going to be practicing with the video. we're gonna be practicing all together like we did the last time on the ground. I think we can work better like that, and we only have one AED anyway. All right, so first of all, who can tell me, remember what CPR stands for? What does CPR stand for?
Cardiopulmonary resuscitation.
Okay, you gotta remind me your name.
Rex Nicolo.
Rex, I can call you Rex? Now I won't remember that, so when I point to you, you need to say Rex, okay? I got some giveaways here. I don't know what you would want. There's just a mark, highlighter. This is a keychain for a boat. Anything? Which one would you like? You got a boat? You don't have a boat?
No.
Oh, that's a keychain. It's for, I think you want a mark, highlighter.
Marker.
Okay. All right. Who can tell me what AED stands for? That's a machine that shocks the heart. Come on. I gotta remember your name. Francisco. It's marked on your arm, isn't it? You forgot. Is that your name, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
is her name.
AED, do you know what it stands for? All right, for the new people, you can't expect them to know. All right, that's right, first time. All right, it stands for Automated External Defibrillator. Now, what I'm gonna do is, I didn't want to give you the books because you would cheat. I didn't want to give you the books at the beginning, so I'm gonna pass some of these books. Hopefully I brought them. Yes. Open them up and share them, okay? Let's see, 2. They have little pamphlets in the middle, so make sure you don't drop them out, lose them. Let's see, and then if someone else comes, you'll have to share. Open it up, and you can just push these a little bit ahead of you so they don't fall off. Especially for the new people, okay? Your name, sir?
Claude.
Claude. That's easy to remember, but I'm terrible at remembering names. And I should,
Aurelio.
Emilio, I should know yours.
Aurelio.
Yes. Rex.
What is that?
Sam.
Marvin.
Mar
Marvin.
Marby. Francisco.
Adrian.
Adrian. All right, all nice names, but I'm not gonna remember a thing.
What page?
I'll send you
okay.
2 pages. What I want you to do is make sure you save these pieces, okay?
Okay.
Just keep your book. So I'm hoping that we can probably leave some of these books here. Last year, they bought books for you all, I think. Didn't they, Francisco, or last 2 years ago? Did you have a book? Do you have one at home? Shame on you didn't bring it, did you? Okay, so the AED stands for those non-medical people, it stands for Automated External Defibrillator. And it is this machine, this is a trainer, but what it does, automated, as you all know, it speaks to us. External, what's it, outside the body, defibrillator, it shocks the heart back into rhythm. So this trainer is not gonna shock us, but it's a demonstration of what we're supposed to do, okay? So CPR is cardio, which means heart, pulmonary, which means lungs, resuscitation and reviving, bringing back to life, okay? I do represent the American Heart Association as a nurse. That was a requirement, and I'm glad I stuck with that because they do research. And when it comes to CPR, they're the most updated, okay? So for the new people, you've never had CPR before, right? And you've never had it, okay? The 2011, the American Heart, the guidelines was you used A, B, C, D in order to do CPR. A stood for airway, B stood for breathing, C stood for compressions, and D stood for defibrillation. Well, the American Heart in research determined that we were reviving people, but guess what? They were brain dead. So they were really no use to us, or themselves, I should say. So they came up with the thing that we have to do something differently in order to save lives, but they're really useful to themselves. So they changed the sequence. They determined that we were taking too long to open the airway, which is the mouth, open the airway and then the nose, and give 2 breaths, because we thought breath was life. It is life. But this type of breath is not life. They've determined that, and we nurses thought the same thing. This is what they're talking about. That is not, the heart has already stopped. So we as nurses, we medical people, we waited till they took their last breath, as we said, then the heart had already stopped. So the blood supply wasn't getting to the brain. So as a result, the brain cells were dying. So they've changed the sequence since 2011 to compressions is the most important thing in giving CPR. In compressions, we're actually circulating the blood to the brain. So when compressions is started, we are actually pumping the heart like it would normally be beating. So I tell my students, we don't have the excuse anymore in saying, I don't want to do CPR because I got to put my mouth in somebody's mouth. Well, after COVID, we're not going to do that anyway. So and today we're not going to do that. We're just going to tilt and we're going to pretend, okay? I do have some masks that you all would have to use as well. So think about it, that it makes sense for that person who's unresponsive. Their priority is compressions. Nothing else. Not trying to give them breaths. Their priority is getting that blood circulating to the brain as quick as possible, okay? So if you turn into your books, I think it's page, oh, don't tell me I didn't bring my book. Must have left another bag in the car. Hello, good afternoon. Sorry. Yeah, but it's not like this. It's not like this. It's what I want to show you. And it's in the back of the book. There it is. On page 80, so you two share page 80 in your book. And this is dealing with CPR because I'm going to skip it when it comes to the video so we can move on. That's called the American Heart Adult Chain of Survival. And you see a chain link there, right? What is the first link there? You see a telephone, don't you? Okay? So the American Heart has determined that adults, their hearts are older, they could be sicker because of medical conditions. So the quicker we can start compressions, the better it be. But of course, for us who is doing the compressions or CPR, our priority is safety. Now remember, if you get exhausted, you're just going to collapse over that victim. Who's going to help you? Probably nobody around because you can't call for help. So remember, for them, hello, for those 2, 4, 6, 2, 4, 6, 8. All right, sir, you're going to have to find a seat. Get a chair and come here, please. You can get in between. Or over there. All right, so I get easily distracted. I just remembered, turn your phones, because if they go off, I'm going to get distracted. So please put your phone on silent, vibrate, and if you do feel it vibrating, you need to just step out and go to the, and take your call. All right. Yeah, I think you can see better over here with it from the end. So, for that victim, compressions is a priority. So when we finish and we're practicing, and I ask you, what's your priority? What's the victim's priority who's unresponsive? It is compressions, not breathing them at all. It's breathing, but not the priority. All right, when you look at the adult, think about it. We're older. My mother's heart been ticking for 91 years. So that's the longer it takes, the weaker it gets. So, or the sicker sometime it is. So the American Heart is determined that before we start CPR on an adult, we need to call 911. Why? So that's where the telephone is. Because the quicker we can get someone or be relieved, the ambulance, EMS, or whatever gets to us, the quicker, the better the results. Because once you start, you remember, you don't have much time to, either you're gonna collapse on the victim and not do anything, or the victim may not be revived. So, for an adult, always remember, do not start CPR on an adult until 911 has been notified. Now, how do we do that? We find someone unresponsive, anywhere. You don't know what happened, right? So you need to make sure you're safe. Is that Reed?
Yes,
Okay. Nothing else. You need to make sure the scene is safe. Other parts of the world, oh, this stuff don't happen, came on, I'm sure it does, but anyway, you might be the next person if you go and touch somebody that has been, it's a crime scene or whatever. Make sure the scene is safe before you go. So look around and make sure there's nothing suspicious. No wires on the ground, no ladders falling down, no water where the person could have slept. Make sure you're safe. Then you're gonna go to the person. It's safe, you're gonna go to the person and tap. And if you know the person, God forbid, if you know the person, but that could happen. In the bracket, it happens, because I know everybody there, seems like. It's a small place. You tap them, you call them by name. They respond better by hearing their name than saying, hey, are you okay? So make sure you use their name if you know their name. All right, but no response. But you didn't have your cell phone in your pocket. You did not have your cell phone on you. So you scream, someone, help, help, call 911. Well, lo and behold, 3 people showed up, 3 people. What are you gonna do? You only need one, so you're gonna point to one. You don't know that person, so you'll point to one and say, you call 911. If you don't take control of that and do that, all 3 is gonna take the cell phones out and start calling, be in confusion. So point to the person, say you. But if you had your cell phone on you and no one came to you before you started CPR and that, you need to get your phone or take your cell phone out, put it on speaker, call 911. What are you going to tell them? What are you going to tell them? What's important that they know? 2 things that I think. I know CPR, but where you are. They need to know where you are immediately so that ambulance can be released. What are you? Don't tell them PDL, I wouldn't know that myself. So remember, tell them where you are and you know CPR. Because if you don't, they're going to question you, ask you all sorts of things. And you cannot count and stay focused with them asking you all these questions. Now you have a speakerphone, but I would be one that I would have to not listen to that and concentrate on my victim. Okay? So that's where the chain of survival comes in on that page. And it's not on that, I don't think. No, it's not. So the next link is what? That's your compressions. That's your hands on the chest. And see that heart-shaped thing? That's your AED. So once that arrives, you're going to use that. You're going to use that. And then hopefully it shocks the heart into rhythm. They're transported to the hospital and monitored there. All good and well that we've revived that person. But that's the American Hearts. They're saying we need to follow that in order to get the best results. Because CPR is hard work, and by the time you start, but get to the 5th cycle of an adult, you are worn out. You're tired, you're panting, and of course you have to give breaths as well. Now, who can tell me, is a heart attack the same as cardiac arrest? You people that had it before,
yeah.
Not the new. It is? Well, you tell me that. A heart attack, you have symptoms. When people say that they had a heart attack and died, basically they're saying they had a cardiac arrest because the heart stopped and it couldn't be restarted. A heart attack, you have symptoms, and we'll talk some about that on the first aid. You have symptoms of chest pain. Cardiac arrest, no symptoms. You suddenly stop. But with a heart attack, it can lead into cardiac arrest because the more muscle of the heart that's damaged, the last one, they call it the major heart attack. It means that last part of the muscle of the heart has nothing to work. So the heart stopped. So cardiac arrest and heart attack is not the same. We do not do CPR on people who are having a heart attack because the heart is still sticking and they're still breathing. We do CPR on unresponsive people. Now another question, is unresponsive the same as unconscious? Think about it. You all are not medical people, but you're smart.
No.
It's not the same,
No.
right? What's the difference?
Unconscious, you're still breathing.
Breathing and the heart is taken. Unresponsive, nothing. We can't get anything from them. So remember, people think that oh, they're unconscious, but once they're breathing, they don't need CPR. But American Heart is telling us, if someone is so drunk that you can hardly see them breathing, or someone has had a seizure that they've gone into this deep sleep and you cannot see their chest rising, start compressions and I guarantee it will wake them up. So if in doubt, you do it. Because we don't know. So before they said, well, okay, no, I think she's breathing, so let's not do that. But the compressions will cause the person to wake up, even though the heart was already pumping, okay? So if in doubt, they tell us to do it again, the same thing.
The compression and the CPR.
Yeah.
So you need a face mask for the...
Yeah, we're coming to that, we're coming to that, okay? Yes, sir.
So what the compression do? The compression the heart?
Yes.
Okay.
What it does, in the video will show you.
Okay.
What it does, when you're pushing down, say it has to be a hard, flat surface.
Yeah.
So here it is. When you push down, you're squirting blood out of the heart going to the brain.
Okay.
When you bring your hands up, not off the victim, but up, the heart fills up with blood again, and then you keep going. So you're basically compressions are pumping the heart, blood out of the heart. Okay? And that's why they have to be effective. Because if you're just doing shallow, you're just squirting blood. It's not going anywhere. It's just getting probably to the arteries here. Okay. Now, you heard about the American, the Good Samaritan law. I need to cover this for the new people. Good Samaritan law.
Yeah.
You remember it?
Yeah.
What does it do?
If you
Although used to perform CPR on a victim,
Yes.
will be in charge.
Okay, but I'll be in charge. We can say that. All right. So if he's, tell me you can name again. Adrian. If he's doing CPR and he revived that person, and that person has a painful breathing because he fractured a little rib, which can heal, the American Heart, he's certified and current. They can't sue him because he saved that life, and that's a risk that we take. However, they can sue us for negligence. And this is what, as an instructor, I always remind my students. You cannot do CPR on a bed. You cannot do CPR on a grass unless you know it's on a hard, flat surface. Because hard, flat, smooth surface, whichever one you want to use. Let's give an example. You find somebody out on the field. It's grass, right? It's hard, it's on the ground. But you don't know what was underneath that, and you couldn't see it in the grass. And you start doing compressions. And all of a sudden you see blood coming out from the mouth. What has happened here? We have fractured the ribs in the back with that stone, punctured the lungs, and now we're in trouble. So can we save that person's life? No. So remember, we will be sued for negligence, but not for something like that.
How can you prove that when the person fell they didn't break that rib?
Boy, I got some tough people here today. Okay, how?
That's a good one.
You would need, if it broke that rib, you were responsible for shaking the floor, the ground anyway.
Okay.
All right, so you would know that there was no smooth things under there. Okay? But the person don't usually break ribs unless they fall on something hard. It's not just the ground, okay? Now a crush injury, they would, if they wheel or something hit their chest. All right, good questions, but moving on. All right, so once you start doing CPR, what are the only 5 reasons you can stop? Now we need to know them. Give me one.
The person becomes responsive.
The person becomes responsive, but give me the priority. We just said it earlier. Adrian.
Health.
Nope. We said it earlier. What's your priority when it comes to giving CPR?
If it's safe.
Safe. And safety refers to your exhaustion. So if you become exhausted, you have to stop. You can't continue. Because if not, you're going to be the next person. Nobody is going to be there. And you, two lives. Right.
Yeah.
All right, good. The person revives and says, get off of me, or what are you doing to me? And ambulance arrives, and EMS takes over. Someone else knows CPR and shows up and says, I know CPR, and takes over. And then when the other person shows up, you're going to switch every 2 minutes. Why? Because after 2 minutes, you get tired. And let the other person, and one person stay on one side and one the other. And we'll see that when we're using the AED. And then, of course, the other one. If a doctor's around and comes up on the scene, doctors and nurses always tend to, when there's something going on, they try to see what's happening, what they can help. They say, how long you been doing CPR? 45 minutes. I don't think it, he'll just say stop. That's the 5 reasons that we can stop CPR. So that's how important it is. When we have the right to walk away or to sit down and cry, whatever we want to do, and say, I tried, but because I became exhausted. No one can sue you for that. Okay? Even if you fractured a rib because you tried doing that. Okay, any questions for the new people? So let me see your hands again. The first time you're having CPR. Is this the first time for you? No, that's why you know so much, right? Right? Okay, all right, good.
One question for me. When you make that third, yeah, they say that's the last breath. You got that last breath. What happened after that?
Okay. Gasping is not, that kind of gasping is a sign of the heart stopping. And the heart, when it stops, it just trembles. So when it's trembling, the body is saying just like, what's going on? What's going on? So the two work together. So it's kind of like the shock of what's happening. So we don't wait. Once we see one gasp like that, we're going to go. We're not going to wait for that last one because the brain cells are dying. Okay? So what I'm going to do is do the video, and this is actually the first aid part of it. And so it should have some of the CPR in it, but I think the first aid is important as well. So we're going to go through some of that. Pay attention to certain things, what they say, who's considered an adult. Not by age, but whatever who's a child, an infant. Because even though around your workplace, you're dealing with adults, you're going to come in contact with children and infants. So gentlemen, you're men, but you need to learn it. And the more you learn, the better it is, okay? Because you can save a life. All right, so we're going to watch this, and I'll be stopping it on and off. So let's pray that it works. What happened here now?
No audio.
Huh?
No audio.
I know, but
Did I plug in the jack?
Turn on the TV. It should work on the
where's the TV?
remote.
This one?
It's some remote.
Sorry. I've got this plugged in, so maybe it's the speaker.
Speakers seems turned off. There's no light.
Okay, sorry, it got turned off in the process of transport.
Let's go again.
All right, let's continue from here.
Just turn it up.
I think we need.
So I can turn it on the computer.
It's why we've made better heart and brain health our mission.
Is that
And
too loud?
together, we've made an extraordinary impact. Healthier adults, more active children, stronger survivors. But we are just beginning. Until there's a world free of heart disease and stroke, we'll be there, making a healthier, longer life possible for everyone. You may ask, why do we do what we do? The answer is simple. Because we are the American Heart Association and the American Stroke Association. And life is why.
Okay, so that was just an introduction. And it's covering from birth right up to old age. And what they're saying is life is precious, any age. Even though some people think, well, they live their life, already, they're not as important. So that's what I like about the American Heart. They see life is precious, and this is why they do what they do. So we're going to do the first aid, and then CPR. That's too loud or not?
Okay.
Of this video, actors may not always be shown wearing personal protective equipment. Products are shown for demonstration purposes only. The American Heart Association does not endorse or recommend any specific manufacturer or product.
Janie tells me she's not playing soccer next year.
I think she's more interested in band, although Kyle tells me she's also in that.
Stop. Did you see that? That man just collapsed on the school lawn.
Yeah, and he's not getting up.
This doesn't look good.
I hope John knows what to do, because I sure don't.
Okay, remembering the first aid course at work, I need to make sure the scene is safe. That could be you, helpless, on the ground. Or you could be the rescuer who comes to the person's aid. People can suddenly become ill or injured, regardless of where they live or work. But you can make a difference, even save someone's life, if you learn to recognize and respond to common emergencies. Hello, and welcome to the American Heart Association's Heart Saver First Aid course. In this course, you'll learn the basics of first aid, the most common life-threatening emergencies, how to recognize them, how to call for help, and how to perform life-saving skills. This course will help you learn in several ways. Your student workbook covers all the material and includes quick reference guides. And this video will give you facts and show you important skills. However, not all topics are covered in the video, so it's important to read your workbook and keep it close by. If you complete all the course requirements and demonstrate the skills correctly, you will receive a course completion card. Studies show that you need to review this information and practice the skills frequently in order to maintain your first aid skills. Now let's get back to the scene and see how training in first aid can help you save someone's life.
Harry, are you okay? Are you okay?
James, phone 911 and stay on the line so you can answer the emergency dispatcher's questions, okay?
Okay, got it. There's a gentleman on the ground who's unresponsive.
He's breathing normally, so he doesn't need CPR.
We're at Mitchell School on the corner of Elm and Cherry Street. 3535 Cherry Street.
What about it?
I'm on the phone with the 911 dispatcher. Do you have a first aid kit and an AED?
Yeah.
Hurry and go get those.
What about other problems? Was he injured? I don't see any bleeding, broken bones, or bites. Nothing at all.
What about medical information jewelry?
Let me see. Oh, wait, here's something. He's wearing a necklace. He has diabetes.
We just discovered a medical necklace. He has diabetes. Okay, the paramedics are on their way. They're just a couple of blocks away. The dispatcher says to stay with him until they arrive. I'm gonna go meet them.
You just witnessed someone like you putting first aid training into action. It's more than scratches, scrapes, and skinned knees. First aid is the immediate care that you give a person with an illness or injury before more advanced training arrives and takes over. First aid can be initiated by anyone in any situation. It may help someone recover more completely or more quickly, and it could mean the difference between life and death. Most of the time, you'll give first aid for minor illnesses or injuries. but you may also get first aid for something that could become life-threatening, such as providing aid for a heart attack, bandaging for severe bleeding, or giving epinephrine for a severe allergic reaction. Today, you'll get to practice first aid skills, which will help you remember what to do in a real emergency. Let's define some terms you'll hear throughout the course. Responsive refers to someone who moves, speaks, blinks, or otherwise reacts when you tap him and ask him if he's okay. Unresponsive refers to someone who does not move, speak, blink, or otherwise react. As part of first aid basics, your role as a first aid rescuer is to recognize that an emergency exists. Make sure the scene is safe for you and the ill or injured person. Phone 911 and provide care until someone with more advanced training arrives and takes over. You become an important part of emergency medical services, or EMS. EMS is a network of emergency responders that you activate by calling 911. Another first aid basic that applies to almost all emergencies is to ask if you may help. Anyone has the right to refuse you. When you come upon an ill or injured person and the person responds, introduce yourself as a first aid provider before you touch the person. Then, ask if you may help. If the person agrees, give first aid. If the person refuses, phone 911 and stay with him until help arrives. If the person is confused or can't answer, assume the person wants help. Also, it's important to know that first aid kits should contain the supplies you'll need in most common emergencies. Your student workbook contains a list of what is usually kept in a kit. Your kit may be different, however, so please check the first aid kit against your list to see if there are additional items you need to add. Be sure to restock it after any emergency. By taking this first aid course, you are benefiting yourself as a rescuer and the ill or injured person. Initially, you may have thoughts like Janice when she and John first came upon the landscaper near the school.
This doesn't look good.
I hope John knows what to do, because I sure don't.
Janice isn't alone in her hesitancy to act. You may be worried about doing the right thing or worried that someone else could provide better care, or even the sight of the injury itself might be overwhelming. Taking the American Heart Association's Heart Saver First Aid course increases your confidence and ability to respond in emergency situations. Just like John, you'll be more likely to help if a family member, coworker, friend, or even someone you don't know becomes ill or injured. And if you have questions regarding whether or not it's legal to provide someone first aid, all states have Good Samaritan laws. These laws protect anyone who provides first aid. They differ from state to state, so be sure to check the laws in your area. When something like this happens, what can you do? In a matter of seconds, you need to act. But there are several things to consider as you start to provide first aid. First, make sure the scene is safe. Be aware of any danger for you, the ill or injured person, and anyone else nearby. This is an important step. Do it every time you are providing help. Continue to assess the scene while you provide first aid to be aware of anything that might change and make it unsafe. You can't help anyone if you're injured yourself. When you look around, ask yourself these questions. Is there danger for you or the ill or injured person? Move an injured person only if he is in danger, or if you need to move him to safely provide first aid or CPR. Are others around to help? If so, have someone phone 911. If no one else is near, phone for help yourself. Who is ill or injured? Can you tell how many people are hurt and what happened? Where are you? You'll need to tell others how to get to you, in particular the 911 dispatcher. If there are other bystanders at the scene, send one of them to meet the paramedics and lead them to the scene. As you assess the need for first aid, it's important to know when and how to phone for help. Phoning 911 activates a network of responders through EMS. As a general rule, you should phone 911 and ask for help whenever someone is seriously ill or injured and you are not sure what to do in an emergency. Here are some examples. The person doesn't respond to voice or touch, has chest discomfort signaling possible heart attack, has signs of stroke, has a problem breathing, has a severe injury or burn, has severe bleeding, has a seizure, suddenly can't move a part of the body, has received an electric shock, or has been exposed to poison. You will learn more about the signs and first aid actions for these medical and injury emergencies later in the course. But when an emergency happens, what do you do if you're alone? For example, if John had been by himself when he found the landscaper in front of the school, he should do the following.
Are you okay?
Shout for help. If no one answers and the person needs immediate care and you have a cell phone, phone 911 and put the phone on speaker mode. The emergency dispatcher could provide further instruction and tell you how to give first aid, provide CPR, and use an AED.
Sir, are you okay? Are you okay? Help! Help! I need some help!
911, what's your emergency?
There's a man down on the school lawn. I'm checking his breathing. He's breathing normally, but unresponsive.
What's your address?
I'm at the Mitchell School, near the corners of Elm and Cherry Streets. 35 Cherry Street.
Okay, Mitchell School, near the corner of Elm and Cherry Streets. 3535 Cherry Street. I've dispatched paramedics, so they're on the way. Is he on a flat surface?
Yes, he's on the lawn.
Does he have any injuries? Any medical information jewelry on?
I'm checking.
Or, if you're with others during an emergency, then you would do as John and Janice did. They worked together. John started assessing the need for first aid while Janice phoned 911. When you're on the phone with the dispatcher, don't hang up until the dispatcher tells you to. Answering all the dispatcher's questions won't delay the arrival of help. And be aware of your surroundings. Knowing the address of your location will help emergency responders reach you more quickly. It's also important for you to know how to phone for help from your location. Do you know how to activate the emergency response number in your workplace? For example, is it necessary to dial 9 for an outside line? Or is there an internal number to phone that will notify responders that are on site? For the purpose of this course, we will say phone 911 as the emergency response number. The video will now pause for you to write down the emergency response number for your location in your student.
Okay, what do you think is happening to that karate girl? I think it's girl on the ground. What do you think?
It's a seizure.
Seizure. Yes. Yeah. Okay. They didn't say this in the first aid, but the American Heart considers anyone who has reached the age of puberty as an adult, because you'll need to use two hands. Now, the big child and have not yet reached puberty, you're going to use two hands because you can give a deeper force. When it comes to CPR, 2015, they actually increased the rate because the American Heart determined that we needed to go faster to keep the blood circulating to the brain, and we were afraid to go too deep, so we weren't going deep enough, we weren't pushing hard enough. So they've increased it from 2 to 2.4. So how can you measure that? When you think about it, that's about 2. You got to go pretty deep in order to just get the blood out of the heart and come back up and let the heart fill. So today, when you're using these mannequins, they're different than the ones we used the last time. They have an indicator, so if you're not doing it right, or the depth you're not doing it, it will light up and give you. So you need to have just 2 grains at all times. So it'll be fun to see where we can see. That one seems to be on all the time. Now I see the light there. But anyway, we didn't have that indicator last time. You just had to hear. You remember those things for cracking? Okay. All right. So when you get them, you're gonna be making sure your hands are in the right position, and this is what they're requiring now, because they want you to be able to feel what it feels like to go that deep in order to light up those, to save a life, All right, any questions about when it comes to, remember we talked about the safety? how do you all, if they're in a department, you all have access to, how do you call 911? Do you have a line, or do you take your own phones, or how do you do that when it comes to an emergency in your department?
Use the line and use the phone.
Okay, so you personally can call 911, you don't have to get somebody else to do it, okay? Which is good, okay, so because especially now that you're doing this course, you know you have that authority, and please tell them, first aid and no CPR, all right? Because if not, they'll try to find someone or try to tell you to do it and only confuse you. All right, no questions for the.
He said he is wearing for move the chest.
Yeah.
But sometimes the people wearing, but there is no move the chest.
Okay. All right. Some people, especially highly intoxicated people, people who have come through a seizure like that and just resting, it's not their chest, it's sometimes their abdomen that moves. So it's not like you don't see the chest, but especially if it's a big abdomen. So you would have to sometimes put your hand to actually feel the difference. Now you notice he said he's breathing but not responding. But the heart was still working. That one meant that he was temporarily in conscious state, because that was a diabetic going into a diabetic shock or a diabetic coma. And if something wasn't corrected, then that person could die in that. They eventually would.
Probably never taking medicine in the morning.
Okay, you're bringing up a good question. Because diabetics, and that's part of the thing that I do, not many instructors do that, but the nurse. Diabetics have a tendency, they're always, if you're on medication, insulin is even worse. They have a habit of taking the insulin and kind of forgetting to eat.
Yeah.
Or going to exercise and wait till they come back to eat. Oh, you're asking for trouble because you're going to collapse on the road. My recommendation to any diabetic person is that they do not go anywhere on the road or exercising, because you're using up energy without another person. I've seen it happen. I've seen as a nurse, they collapse and somebody find them. Not good. And also they eat, but they forget to take their medicine. So now doctors are saying that as diabetics, they're recommending, don't wait for 20 minutes or half an hour like years ago it used to be. As soon as you take your medicine, you start eating, because that way you know you're going to remember. Because a lot of diabetics are busy, and it's just like everything else, they forget. So, but diabetes is a killer. If it's not controlled, the diabetic coma, insulin shock. What's the difference? The insulin shock is when they've had the insulin, they didn't eat, so the body's gone into shock. The sugar's too low. Diabetic coma is when the sugar is too high. They ate, but they didn't take any medication. So the sugar is so high. I'm going to say this because this might be the situation. Do you all have any diabetics at work, or colleagues at work, or family members? Okay, cool.
How do you know when you're to check? What are the signs of being diabetic?
Okay.
If you have never been diagnosed.
All right, this is not really part of first aid, but I'll tell you. Okay. Very thirsty, passing urine frequently, losing weight, gaining weight, someone who has had history of diabetes in the family, you need to watch it. Drinking too much Lucozade.
Red Bull.
Bull is worse. Bull.
Soda.
Gentlemen, I can tell you, bull is bull, that would be bull. It's filled with caffeine and it's filled with sugar. And two are not good things for the heart. Okay? So I'm saying to you, you're asking about what the symptoms. Those are some of the typical symptoms. So, and let me tell you, if you're having, by the time people recognize that they really got diabetes, they've just lost so much weight because they're not, and they're wondering what's going on. They should have watched their diet. They should have watched when they're going to the bathroom a lot, passing a lot of urine, very thirsty, all of those things.
How frequent, what's the average time an adult use bathroom per day?
Boy, you must be a doctor. I can't tell you.
But you said frequent, how frequent is frequent?
No, frequent. I'm talking about that you have to constantly go.
Yeah.
Men should be able to hold their urine more than women. Okay, I can just tell you, you should be able. But if you keep all constantly having to go and not a whole lot, it's an urgency. Okay, so I can't tell you how many, but you sound like a doctor. I'm just picking on you because that's what doctor would ask.
One thing, we work in the meat department. It's
Yes.
always cold. So when men in the meat department is like, they always go to the bathroom.
Mhm.
But that coldness, yes, send down that urine.
Right.
So it depends on the liquid. Sometimes we inside there, we don't get even to drink water. But we think
Wow.
we are okay.
Always cold.
Because inside is cold, so you feel like your thirst is quenched.
Yes.
Whereas
But
I'm telling the guys that they cannot do that.
no,
No.
dehydration is a big, big
it's
issue.
a big issue in the meat
Let me
department.
tell you, you cannot do it. You have to have fluid inside to cushion that
Yeah.
thing there, because you're gonna have a feeling, and it might not be sugar, but you're gonna get get your water, put it around. Hypothermia, which is a part of what we deal with. That, and we tell people, men don't like to drink water for whatever
Yeah,
reason.
most men don't like to drink water.
No, I don't know why, but it's the best thing you can drink.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna say to you guys who are working in the meat shop and whatever refrigerator, please,
Drink water.
you make sure you come into work hydrated. Hydrated, by that I mean, if you have to go to the bathroom, do it before you go in. I'm serious,
I say to the guys, man, it's like,
Thank
they
you.
can't drink it.
yeah.
So it's like, in the morning before I enter the meat department, I have to have 2 bottles of water first.
Ellie,
And for the day,
And-
I have to have the rest.
And guys, you're not gonna stay healthy. You are not gonna stay healthy. The reason is, because all the waste products and stuff is building up in there, and you're not in a normal environment.
Yeah.
You're dressed up like astronauts, I guess, but you're not in a normal environment.
Yeah.
So remember, our body needs to be cared for, so he is correct.
Yeah, toxin.
You make sure and do not load yourself with Lucozade or Bull. You're gonna get both if you don't. I'm serious. Because remember, in that cold, your heart slows down.
Yeah.
So the Bull wants you to work harder. So it's gonna push more than you need to push it.
There's a
So-
contrast on it.
Pardon?
There's a contrast in the environment and the
Mind.
goals.
Definitely, yeah. So it affects your mind. So when you guys wondering why you're doing when you come out there, it's because you drank Bull and you're dehydrated. You know dehydration can give you a headache
yes.
and you can't think and you're wondering what's going on. And you see me here, I've been drinking a lot of water because I've been talking for the last 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
And you know you're losing water as you go because I'm
Yeah.
it's insensible loss, okay? So thank you for bringing that up because that's very, very important, okay? So let's go and see what's happening here now with the first aid because I gotta try to remember okay, let's stop there. I'm gonna skip this. All right, you guys, have y'all have food and food handling safety thing? You know how to put on gloves and how to take them off? Okay, so everybody's been shown, I asked for a box of gloves, but
You
I
want
didn't.
one?
Yes, please. The security got sidetracked because I would like to see how you're taking those gloves off. Because it's one thing to handle meat, but it's another thing to handle human blood.
Yep.
So you gotta remember that. And even now in this day and age, well, I guess if it's frozen, it can't be no problem. But even dealing with animals, you have problems. So they're talking about first aid. Usually you're not gonna have anything. You're gonna come upon some, you don't travel with gloves, do you, in your car? Unless you're an essential worker, like, people going to nursing homes. Thank you, these are latex free?
Latex.
All right, I'm allergic to latex, but y'all can have that. I have mine here. So if y'all are not allergic to them, you can pass them on.
Latex powder free.
Latex powder free, that's what it said. Latex free.
They have no powder.
Okay,
No powder.
yeah, but they're latex,
Yeah.
yes. I'm allergic, they will cause my hands to itch.
The powder is like a
Yes, yeah, it actually, no, the latex is what bothers me, I'm allergic to latex.
How do you hold that gloves? How do you hold that gloves?
Okay, how do you hold them?
What type of glove is that?
These are nitrile. They fit your hand very tightly. And they're very strong. They're medical gloves because there's very likely that you're gonna get a tear in this. Okay? These are nitrile, I think that's what's called. Yeah. So universal precautions, they're talking about with COVID now, what would be involved? See, at least, you gonna put one on? Okay, just put one on. If you don't have enough,
when you're working in cold places, do the ring hot or warm ring at the same time. It's okay for the blood move.
okay, you're saying in and out of hot and cold. Yeah, I'll come to that. If you got more, two, just pass them around because I prefer you to have two.
Okay.
So pass them back and I prefer you to have two.
Take two if there is enough.
Yeah, pass them around. Universal precautions is basically telling us treat everybody the same. Because we don't know who might have something that we can get. Hopefully nobody here has COVID today. We cover you in the name of Jesus. All right? I've been tested twice, so I'm okay. So you all had been tested too? Yeah, okay. So we are in good hands. All right. But what I'm saying, universal precautions in this situation with COVID, you would not give breaths unless you had, and I must have left that in the car, unless you had one of these. And I had those in the car somewhere, and or maybe they're in the other bag. Maybe they're in the other bag. It's a mask. It protects us. Look in that bag and see if you don't see some red. I thought I had them. Yes, my brain is better than I thought. No, don't take them. Give them to me. I don't want you to have them now. Y'all are taking advantage of this poor old lady here. All right, I was wondering where they were. I know I put them somewhere else. I only have 8. You're gonna have to pay me for them too. So somebody's gonna give it out.
4, 6, 8.
Okay, universal precautions. Yes, we'll use it. They've been sanitized. Okay, thank you. What they're saying is, first aid, we need to protect ourselves, not just to be safe, but safe from catching any disease that can be spread by body fluids, blood, vomit, urine, anything that's coming from the body, okay, that is in the line of fluid. But you're not going to have gloves, so the best thing that you can do as a first aider is make sure you wash your hands, okay, and or use the sun. But even if you don't have that, I've done that as a nurse. My hands are, and the first thing I do now, if I have a cut on my hand, I'm being not very smart if I'm putting my hand in blood because I don't know. You have to protect yourself. Remember, safety comes first. So I'm not going to do that if I don't have gloves. But if I don't know it's there, the thing to do is to wash your hands. The best thing you can do, because gloves are not always guaranteed that they're intact, okay? They're safe. So taking gloves off can also contaminate you if you're not careful. Hopefully nobody's doing this. All right? You're not a woman. So women do this when they got hair dye on it, you know, and they get their face all sprinkly. All right, they do this. Never do that. Yes, I don't know why, because they should know better. I'm sorry, but I've seen it and it drives me crazy because it should not be done that way because you're splashing what is on that on you over you. Okay, so this is how your gloves should be taken off. All right, this is the dirty hand. Both your hands are dirty. You're not going to touch. Hold it in your hand like this. Pull it over, and all of this is clean. Put it in the garbage, so that way no germs have gotten into the atmosphere. All right? So let's see you do it. without touching your skin. Go ahead.
Oh,
Don't drop it.
You failed, Ellie.
Shame on you.
The video, let me see.
Yeah, he failed. He dropped it. He threw all the germs all over. There you go. There you go. Do you understand the principle of it? That you put all the germs on the inside, okay? And nothing has gotten you. What he did, he splashed it. So you're in trouble.
I'm
All right?
in trouble too.
Yes, he's in trouble too, because you basically jumped right across. So remember, gentlemen, that this is serious stuff. But if you don't have gloves, your best protection is wash your hands or use a sanitizer. But if you've got blood on it, don't use a sanitizer because you're rubbing it all over. It needs to be washed with soap and water. And most of the places you can get to that. And if it's on your hands and you don't have a cut and you're not putting your hands in your mouth, you're safe. So if you bite your nails, stop it from today. All right? I don't know how anybody bites.
You suck your thumb.
Yeah, that's even worse. Okay. All right. So universal precautions, and never, do not attempt to give rest to anyone at this stage because of COVID, because that's how it spread, respiratory. Okay. So you would do continued CPR unless, and we're gonna talk. This is what you're having. I'll just demonstrate this too. Any questions about first aid that they're talking about so far? We're gonna keep moving on because it's getting up in there late. Any questions for the new people? Yes.
All of these are men's. How about women's are big breast, right?
I beg your pardon, sir.
You're,
this is a training session. You're not, I will explain that. You stay right there. And this is a very modest.
I see. Where will I aim it?
I will show you what.
We're not there yet, sir.
You're not, no. I would not want you resuscitating me, sir. Yes. Guys, we need to get this question asked.
No, there's for the blood fluid well when you're working in cold condition is good work or cold?
What he's asking is, when you're in a cold environment and you come out into the heat, is that good for the body? Is it good? No. What cold does, it slows down the blood flow. It restricts the blood vessels. That's why they become purple, your lips and all that stuff become. Then when you go into a hot, all of a sudden it just dilates it very quickly. So that in itself can put some pressure in the circulation of the body. So that's not what you should be doing. And they tell you for hypothermic, just gradually try to warm the person up, not rub their fingers. Because guess what? When you're rubbing your fingers like that, you can damage the cells that are there that's already don't have any blood supply, okay? So you don't do things like that to thaw them. It's better just to kind of put them under the water, not hot water, just hot water, so that, the circulation start moving. So if there's two extremes, the same thing if you're in a heat, never drink ice cold water. I see people doing it all the time. You know that. And you ever get a brain freeze? You ever get a stomach pain in here when you're hot and sweaty? That's what happens, because it clamps everything. Your body is dilated, the vessels are like this, and then you're closing them up. So you're gonna have a headache, you're gonna have all of that. So our body's made to stabilize in one state. If we're in cold, we need to make sure that we're gradually getting back into that normal environment. If we're really hot, we need to make sure that we're getting back, not getting into this cold so quickly, just getting it back to normal, okay? Now that you're throwing me off, sir, all right, we shall, did I answer your question? All right, so, no more of that, no more of that. Sir.
So how we gonna ask the doctor, for example, for me, in my situation, I'm working in a freezer for how many years already? How I'm gonna ask the doctor if I'm going to transfer another department for temporarily, for 6 months like that, so that I get away from the freezer. So how I'm gonna ask the doctor for a certification that I'm not fit to work for temporarily.
Okay, I think that's an employer issue. I think that because you have to address it with your employer, the doctor's gonna refer back to that, what does your employer think? So it has to be a situation, and I agree that when there's especially if you're not doing it right, that's even worse. But if you're doing it right after a period of time, you do get those feelings that happen. But if you're not drinking and hydrating yourself, you're actually doing the wrong thing. So you need to be safe in doing it. But a doctor is not going to give you a note, and they're going to address it with an employer saying, okay, well, if there's a problem that the doctor found out that could be a problem, he will address it when it comes, but it would have to be through the employer. Okay, because it's a medical issue.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Yes.
Oh, you all are a rough man. You asked a lot of questions, huh?
Yeah, but no, the thing is that because a lot of us, or a lot of the guys work in the cold, they drink a lot of coffee. Right? Leading up to more than 4 or 5 cups per day.
Why do you drink a lot of coffee?
The body call for coffee.
We did a course.
The body call for coffee.
Because we are sleepy.
You're addicted to coffee.
Sorry.
You're addicted to
We
coffee.
feel sleepy.
We did a course.
Oh,
We did a course with the chamber
Uh-huh.
about that same issue of caffeine in the cold and all of that. So it's not recommended.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes you don't know how to balance it, because sometimes a person wanna have a cup of coffee. What do you do?
1 cup of coffee is like
But
anything else.
sometimes several.
10.
Per night.
You're asking for that.
Yes.
You're asking
I'm
for that.
telling you what happened.
If you try to.
And you didn't die?
No, no.
No,
Well,
but
the Lord
it's
doesn't have
to-
it's an issue. Trust
No.
me.
It's an issue.
Do you understand
issue.
that caffeine?
It's an issue.
Yeah.
Do you understand caffeine is
I don't
addictive?
drink it, no period.
Yes.
Caffeine is addictive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's even worse. You have not just a heart issue with the caffeine, but you have a mental state telling me my body needs caffeine to give me energy. I didn't have no caffeine, why I'm so hyper today. All right? I had my asthma spray, that makes my heart beat fast.
Same soda, right?
No.
Same soda.
Same with soda.
Yeah, same with any
Coca-Cola.
caffeinated drinks. Same. And Lucozade is even worse. Lucozade, I understand, has caffeine in it as well. It's an allergy thing. So,
How about
guys, if you're not caring for yourself, you can't blame the company for something that you understand what I'm saying. I used to manage the hospital staff, so I know. You need to take care of yourself. Don't come to me afterwards and say, "Well, I didn't know this," when you gone through orientation, but you're choosing to do a different thing. Yes, sir.
But nurse, you know most men don't take care of themselves.
Yeah.
Because in your field, I know most of the men that came to you is like, most of them are already deteriorated. Because when I see what the men them drinking now is boom. Boom.
Yeah.
That's what most men drink like water.
Jack Daniels.
Them drink those things not good.
No.
I haven't drink caffeine for the past 5-6 years.
Yes. Well, I'm used to doing ladies. I got a whole group of men today. Yesterday I had 8 ladies. Now I got 9 men today.
I'm in the wrong class.
Yeah.
Yes, you are. You're the wrong guy. No, what I'm saying is, if you're not healthy, can you do a first aid?
No.
Somebody can have to do it on you.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you've got to remember, as I tell people as a nurse, if we're not healthy, and doctor, we're not healthy, we forget about caring for people.
Yeah.
We're going to be no good. Yes. So start with today, telling yourself, I got to make some changes because I want to save a life. And that life could be your precious person in your life.
Yeah.
Or it could be you. Because if you're choking, you can save yourself. But if you're under the influence of coffee, you can't do a thing.
No, not me. Certainly not. I thought the addicted person.
Who's addicted? No, seriously. And you know what? It's not easy.
Here, but evaluate is second.
One cup of coffee every day.
Yes. 1 cup of coffee is like taking.
Yeah, 1 cup would be a coffee.
1 cup.
I've done 11 cups of coffee in one night. 11 cups of coffee.
And you're alive?
No, Domingo.
No, not me.
Oh, Domingo.
The person is alive?
Domingo.
Well, they tell them they better give their life to the Lord.
They should be your
Still
slave
playing
too.
basketball.
They don't listen.
No.
That is the reason.
But what I'm saying is, gentlemen, I want to say, guys, what I'm saying is that take your life serious, your health serious, Because forget about this. Forget about this if you're not taking. I tell somebody, if I'm a nurse, I've got to be setting an example.
Yeah.
I've got to be setting an example. And things, instead of drinking that coffee, get out and run. You know, and use your energy up instead of getting so hypered up from something going in our body. And really, most of you must have families. Come on. So let it be a time where you think about, I need to make a change, because you're not going to get no doctor to give you no thing if you're not doing it right. Because they'll ask, are you doing so and so? What are you doing? Okay? All right. I'm not mad at anybody. You think I'm mad? You're enjoying it?
Yes.
All right, because I'm like my son, okay? I'm serious, but yet I mean what I say, okay?
Teach us to be serious.
All right, okay. So I need to make sure you're listening. When my granddaughter tells me, my Grammy, when I raise my voice. All right.
No coffee, ano kasi.
So let's see what's next, because we're going to be here all day this hour. I could do with some coffee now to stay awake, you're right? But I'm not doing it.
So no only Corona.
Oh, what am I doing here? See, you made it start so long that I can't get it start back.
Say cheese, guys.
Serious. No bun.
No bun.
Get used to that.
Easter.
As you assess the scene for safety, there are universal precautions you should.
We've done that. Alright, finding the problem. Alright, listen.
We've talked about assessing the scene to be sure it's safe and taking precautions such as wearing personal protective equipment. Next, you must assess the ill or injured person to find out what the problem is before you give first aid. Let's look at the steps more closely. First, make sure the scene is safe. As you approach, look for what could be causing the problem. Next, check to see if the person responds. Approach the person, tap him, and shout, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" If the person doesn't respond, and you are alone and have a cell phone, phone 911 and put your phone on speaker mode. Otherwise, send someone else to phone 911
I'm
and
going
get
to
the
skip
first
this
aid
because
kit and
it's
the
kind of repeating
AED.
it.
Check to see if the person is breathing.
I need to find, this is actually dealing with CPR. Okay.
In providing first aid, you might wonder, should you move an ill or injured person? Generally, no. This is especially important if you suspect that the person may have a pelvic or spine injury. However, there are times when the person should be moved. If the area is unsafe for you or the ill or injured person, move to a safe location. If you do need to move someone, here's one way to do it. Drag the person by his clothes. Place your hands on the person's shoulders, grab his clothes, and pull him to safety. And if a person is unresponsive in breathing, an option would be to roll the person onto his side. By rolling the person onto his side, you may help keep his airway open.
Okay, so basically this is what we're talking about, moving someone. Never grab someone by a limb to try to always take by their clothing because you got a better support. Never roll them away from you. Always roll them towards you. And if someone's there to support their head, why is it important, especially if someone is fallen?
Elevation.
The height is fracturing the spine, the spinal cord. So when it comes to first aid, Amlas brings this big collar. You can use a towel, use anything to wrap it around just to make sure that that head is kept in that position. First aid, use what you can find, okay? But that head needs to be supported. So you would make sure that that person, when they're turning the person to the side because of the tongue will fall back and block the airway, and then the person can't breathe. They will eventually stop breathing and the heart will stop. So it is important that you know when you're turning someone. Never pull someone by their legs, even though they're unresponsive, because you got a head banging. You always
supporting the head in your, I guess against here, and pulling the person as you go along. Okay, make sense? All right, so let's see what else is in this, because I think they're repeating some of this. Summary. I'm gonna skip that, because I think we've gone through that. Medical emergencies. Okay. Listen carefully to this, okay? Medical emergencies.
In this part of the course, we look at the first aid actions for medical emergencies, including difficulty breathing, choking, heart attack, bleeding, and stroke. Your actions in the first few minutes when you see the signs of any of these conditions could help save a life. Breathing. It's usually smooth and easy. We run, play, go about our daily lives, and hardly even notice it. But if someone suddenly has trouble breathing, it's an emergency.
Let's go, move out, move out! Antonio, practice! Shoot! Nice! That's for a life cam!
Josh, are you okay? Is it your asthma? Okay, where's your bag? Okay, hang on.
You can tell if someone is having trouble breathing if the person is breathing very fast or very slowly, is having trouble with every breath, has noisy breathing, you hear a sound or whistle as the air enters or leaves the lungs, or can only make sounds or speak no more than a few words at a time in between breaths, although the person is trying to say more.
Is this the right medicine? There you go.
Someone with a medical condition, such as asthma, usually knows about his own medical condition. He often carries inhaler medicine, which can help him breathe easier within minutes of using it. At times, the person can have such a hard time breathing that he needs help using his inhaler. For this reason, you should be ready to assemble the inhaler and help him use it.
Okay, I'm gonna skip this as well, because I can show you. I got my own here. Allergic reactions.
Allergies are quite common, but if severe, an allergic reaction can quickly turn into a medical emergency. Symptoms of mild allergic reactions are stuffy nose, sneezing, itching around the eyes, itchy skin, or a rash. However, some reactions that seem mild can become severe within minutes. A number of things can cause a severe allergic reaction, including eggs, peanuts, chocolate, some medications, and insect bites and stings, especially bee stings. The signs of a severe allergic reaction are trouble breathing, swelling of the tongue and face, or signs of shock.
Have y'all seen these pens?
An epinephrine auto-injection.
Have you all heard about the epinephrine pen? Anybody allergic to peanuts here? Are your kids allergic to peanuts? Okay, I'm gonna let you watch this because I know in the kids, the kids have to have them in school. I should probably have one myself, but anyway, I'm a nurse, so I think I would know what to do. But it's a pen that's used and it's quite safe, regardless of whether you're non-medical or not. So just watch it, because I think it's important. If you ever come across it.
Is a prescribed device that has medicine in it. The auto-injector will help a person with a severe allergic reaction breathe more easily. If a person has an epinephrine auto-injector, he will generally know how and when to use it. You may help give the person the injection if you have been trained and your state allows it. In a moment, you're going to practice using a spring-activated epinephrine pen.
We're not going to do
But
that.
first, we'll show you a demonstration of what you need to do during the practice. Pay close attention, because you'll be demonstrating the same steps to your instructor afterward. First, make sure the scene is safe. Phone or send someone to phone 911 and get the first aid kit and the
Okay, let's talk about this. Breathing problems. Not just asthma, but of course COVID is a big issue as well. What other reasons that we can have breathing problems? Allergic reactions. What other?
Depression.
depression, panic attacks, panic
Claustrophobia.
attacks,
Claustrophobia.
anxiety, okay? And that can happen with too much caffeine.
It's claustrophobic.
Huh?
Claustrophobic with the
Claustrophobia, hyperventilating, yeah. So all of those things, what do you do for someone who's breathing so fast that they can't slow down? What do you do? How are you gonna get them relaxed?
Talk to them. What's happening?
But that's not working. Okay, as a first aider, let me give you some ideas. If you don't have a bag, yes sir, they're breathing and they're not taking any carbon, they're breathing at all the carbon dioxide. So you put their hands, put their hands over their face tight, okay? If you don't have a bag, on the plane they put these bags over your face, it works because it's trying to talk someone down who's in a panic attack or hyperventilating. They are not it's gonna get worse because they feel like you don't understand what they're saying or what they're going through. So use their hands, have them use their hands, put their hands there. They're not gonna smother themselves. But if you put your hands there, then it's a different thing. They might feel you trying to, and just gradually tell them, breathe normally. All right? Use whatever you have, your two hands. If you have a paper bag or a plastic bag, just put it over the face. But this is less frustrating and less frightening for them, especially with the child. Put this over your face and just have them breathe. And sooner or later, you're going to see this breathing getting lower. Now for asthma, that's not going to work. I'm an asthmatic. I stopped breathing twice in my life. And I travel with my inhaler because with this weather I've been having problems. So, and I know what to do because I'm a nurse, but not everybody would know what to do in a situation where they're getting to where they can't think. Because asthma, the circulation, you're breathing so fast that you're becoming hypoxic. So what happens is that they know the thing's there, but they can't figure out how to work it. So an inhaler can also be dangerous because it has epinephrine in it, just like that pen. And it dilates the blood vessels, and of course that counteracts it. So if the person keeps squirting that in there and they're not breathing it, they're not getting it in the lungs. So you need to make sure that the person takes a deep breath and you put it in their mouth and then you squirt blow out, and when they're taking a deep breath, you squirt. But only 2 puffs. This is why many asthmatics, because they feel they're not getting relief, nearly wear their heart out because they're using so much of this ventilator, okay? So it increases the heart rate. So as a first aider, try to help them control that because they feel like they're choking or they're smothering and they can't breathe, then they're gonna want more of that. But make sure that they come. This will not necessarily help an asthmatic because they need to have good fresh air to breathe, okay? You're the wheezing from that person. That's better when they can wheeze than when they can't, all right? When they can't, it's even worse. The airways are even more constricted. All right, anything else about breathing? I think this one coming in about poisoning, and then I'm gonna work with the hemorrhage. Anything else?
I just know with the asthma, you cannot read the person, you cannot talk to the person at the same time. Because he's losing what we call the windpipe. It's like tidal. Yeah, so nothing cannot come out, nothing cannot go.
Right. And if you see that happening, that means it's more like an allergic reaction going with that. Because one time mine was an allergic reaction to an insulin. So that's what happens. Everything starts as well. But the worst thing you can do is ask an asthmatic a lot of these questions because they don't have the energy to talk. And the more they talk, the more they use that oxygen out that they have. So try not to lie an asthmatic down. They feel like they're dying. They need to be in a sitting position, not standing, because you need to be able to be more relaxed. Because standing, the person becomes. Anyone has seen anyone faint? They tell that their fingers start to tingle and their toes start to tingle. They're breathing really fast, and they tell you they're going to faint. Have you ever experienced that with anyone?
Yeah.
That's hyperventilating, and what's happened the person has, it's all that tingling stuff is to do with the situation with the lungs. So sooner or later, that person's just gonna feel like they're gonna collapse.
2 weeks
You
ago.
see it 2 weeks ago?
2 weeks ago, I got rushed in the hospital because I got panic attack.
Well, bless your heart.
And they put me on CT scan.
On what?
CT scan, thinking that I have an aneurysm.
Oh, in your head?
But
They thought that or you did?
they thought that I have
That- okay,
some
okay.
brain hemorrhage.
Yes, but it wasn't, thank
It
God.
wasn't, it's negative.
Okay.
But the thing is, when I think that I'm losing some air,
Mhm.
some oxygen around me, it's like it's happening.
Yes, you
Because
cannot,
you get
when
panic
you're
attack.
breathing, when a panic attack doesn't normally kill anyone. It doesn't. It feels like you're dying.
Yeah.
I've had them, and there's no fun. But as a nurse, I realized what it was. It was a situation I had lost, it was in grief, it was just a bad situation, and all I could do was think about panic, okay? But they're real, aren't they
Yeah,
real?
they're
And you
real.
feel like your head, you're not thinking straight. You just feel, because you're breathing so fast, that the oxygen isn't circulating through the brain like it should. So panic attacks, and they can be addressed, but you need to tell yourself this is what brings it on. It's out of, because it's lots of, mine was out of a fear of losing someone again or something like that. That type of, it was more of a fear. Or I wasn't afraid of dying, but it was a fear. And it is a bad situation. And I can tell you, I think most people in this world will experience a panic attack or anxiety attack, especially during this COVID time. Because I've never seen more people so stressed in my life. So, and you think it's real, but I'm saying that as first aiders, you will come upon people like that. Don't try it, because it loosen up their clothes because they feel like they're choking or claustrophobic. You also feel like you're gonna smother. Try to talk them down, just never leave them, because when you leave them, they feel like, I'm gone. But make sure that you ask them to slow their breathing down. Because if don't, the head feels like it's exploding. And anyone who has high blood pressure, it makes that situation worse. Okay, but panic attacks for a first aider is basically trying to understand where they are. You can't if you haven't gone through it, but just understand it's real for them. It's a real thing, okay? And of course, if you pray, pray.
Amen.
That's what.
ED.
All
To
right.
use the epinephrine pen,
I'm gonna-
follow the instructions on the pen afterward.
All right, I'm skipping this. All right, this is what we do for a heart attack.
So if we could just maintain the momentum we've had so far, looks like we need to keep up our profits over the summer.
But why don't we add a new product line now when it's slow, and then we could increase production in the fall?
No, not such a good idea.
See what stress does?
I could just try. I can tell you.
George, what's going on? You keep rubbing your chest.
Oh, I don't feel so good.
He looks like he's sweating.
It's no problem.
Listen, George, I'm trained in first aid. Can I help?
Many people with an uncomfortable feeling in the chest don't want to believe that it could be a heart attack. If someone has signs of a possible heart attack, you must act and phone 911 right away, even if the person doesn't want you to. The first minutes of a heart attack are the most important. That's when a person is likely to get worse or even die. Also, many of the treatments for heart attack will be most successful if they are given quickly.
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay, tell me what's wrong.
Just my chest feels tight. It feels like something's squeezing it.
Listen to the description.
I'm starting to feel sick to my stomach. Let me just sit down for a minute. I'll be fine.
Alicia, phone 911. Tell them we have someone with tightness in their chest.
Got it.
And Joe, could you get the first aid kit and the AED? They're in the break room.
Yes, there's a man here who's having tightness in the chest. He's sweating a lot and he's nauseated.
No, wait. It's just a Mental or heartburn? Still don't make a big deal. Listen, George, do you have any allergies to aspirin? No. Have you had any bleeding lately? Have you ever had a stroke? No, neither.
Yes, it's 8200 Bell Street.
George, I'm going to give you 1 adult dose aspirin. Chew that up and swallow it. Okay.
No, you can't.
You can use the baby aspirin.
We've just given him 1 adult dose aspirin.
Thanks.
Paramedics are on the way.
One of the main signs of a heart attack is chest discomfort. Most heart attacks involve discomfort in the center of the chest that lasts more than a few minutes, or that goes away and comes back. It can feel like uncomfortable pressure, squeezing, fullness, or pain. Discomfort may also appear in other areas of the upper body. Symptoms can include pain or discomfort in one or both arms, the back, neck, jaw, or stomach. Other signs of a heart attack include shortness of breath with or without chest discomfort, breaking out in a cold sweat, nausea, or lightheadedness. But what about the difference between a heart attack and cardiac arrest? We often hear these two terms used as if they are the same, but they are not. Sudden cardiac arrest results from an abnormal heart rhythm. This abnormal rhythm causes the heart to quiver, so it can no longer pump blood to the brain, lungs, and other organs. Within seconds, the person becomes unresponsive and is not breathing normally or is only gasping. Death occurs within minutes if the person does not receive immediate life-saving treatment. A heart attack occurs when blood flow to part of the heart muscle is blocked. This blockage is caused when a clot forms in a blood vessel that carries blood to the heart. If the blocked vessel is not reopened quickly, the muscle normally nourished by that vessel begins to die. A heart attack can lead to cardiac arrest. If someone has signs of a possible heart attack, do the following. Make sure the person stays calm and rests. Phone 911, ask someone to get the first aid kit and an AED. If the person has no allergy to aspirin, no serious bleeding, and no signs of a stroke, have the person chew and swallow 1 adult or 2 low-dose aspirins. If the person becomes unresponsive, be prepared to provide CPR. Remember that during a heart attack, giving aspirin appropriately can make a big difference in the person's quality of recovery.
Watch this and then we'll stop.
Fainting may occur when someone stands without moving for a long time, especially if it's hot, has a heart condition, suddenly stands after squatting or bending down, or receives bad news. Fainting is a short period of time when a person briefly stops responding, usually less than a minute, and then seems fine. A person who faints usually gets dizzy and then becomes unresponsive. If you're asked to give first aid for a person who is dizzy but still responds, make sure the scene is safe. Help the person lie flat on the floor, and phone 911 if the person doesn't improve or becomes unresponsive. If a person faints and then starts to respond, ask the person to continue to lie flat on the floor until he can sit up and feels normal. If the person fell, look for injuries caused by the fall. Phone 911.
Let's watch it and I'll talk about it later.
This don't make sense. What is going on here?
Sarah, is it your grades? Are you trying to get those done?
Remind me when these are due. What time is it? Is something wrong?
You don't seem like yourself.
Diabetes is a disease that affects the levels of sugar in the blood. Too much or too little sugar causes problems. Some people with diabetes take medication, such as insulin, to maintain their sugar levels. But if a person with diabetes experiences low blood sugar, her behavior can change.
I haven't had a chance to eat lunch, but I've got to get these grades done.
Sarah, you need to eat. You have diabetes, right?
Yeah, I know.
Low blood sugar can occur if a person with diabetes has not eaten or is vomiting, has not eaten enough food for her level of activity, or has injected too much insulin. If low blood sugar occurs in a person with diabetes, the person may become irritable or confused, hungry, thirsty, or weak, sleepy, or sweaty, or the person might even have a seizure.
Trudy, can you get Sarah some orange juice? She needs something with sugar in it. Sarah, would you feel better lying down? No, I'll be okay. Can you eat something and swallow? Trudy's bringing you some juice. Yeah, I can do that.
Signs of low blood sugar can come on quickly in someone with diabetes. Take the following first aid actions. If the person can sit up and swallow, ask her to eat or drink something with sugar that can rapidly restore blood glucose levels. These items include glucose tablets, orange juice, or soft chewy candy such as jelly beans. If the person can't sit up or swallow, don't force her. Have the person sit quietly or lie down. If the person does not improve within 15 minutes, phone or have someone phone 911.
Okay, so we talked about a heart attack. Getting back to what he said, when you're having a panic attack, you can also, it feels like your chest gets tight as well. So sometimes that's mistaken as well, that, oh, it's a heart attack or vice versa. So they're talking about giving an aspirin. You notice they ask questions about, have they had a stroke? What else? The other questions that they ask. Are you allergic to aspirin? Yes, because I'm allergic to aspirin. Yeah. The reason for that is because they can't, you shouldn't give them aspirin because it's going to compound the problem. An aspirin given to someone who's had a stroke, it thins the blood and gives a big rush to the brain, so you can have like an aneurysm type thing. So while you're trying to help one thing, you can make the other situation. That's why you need to ask the first aiders these questions before they get to where they're unresponsive.
What if the dose is too much? Because they said 1 or 2.
No, the aspirins are coming. I prefer to use 2 baby aspirins because they dissolve very fast. But you also get the 81 milligram, and that's what's coming in now.
So what about the big one?
Most of them are 81 milligrams.
So
the low dose.
Give them 1?
Yes, that's what they're saying. But it doesn't dissolve unless as quickly. So it's better to, they have to chew it up. And chewing up an aspirin sometimes affects the stomach. Whereas medication that gets underneath the tongue seems to absorb very quickly within the bloodstream. So a lot of first aid people kits have baby aspirin in it. So those 2. Give them 2 instead of the 81 milligram. Now, because it's important to ask those questions, because if you give an aspirin to someone who you think is having a heart attack, what you're gonna have? You're gonna have an allergic reaction on top of a heart attack, so you're gonna have big problems. So it's better to try to make sure that 911 gets there and not treat that. Try to keep the person calm, okay? And so remember that with the stroke, because you don't want to thin the blood, and that's what it does. The aspirin thins the blood. The other thing they were talking about was, what was the last thing they were talking about? You guys?
Fainting.
Huh?
Getting something.
Fainting, and then diabetes. Fainting. They're suggesting that you lay the person flat. You can, the reason for that is because you never know why the person fainted. If you saw them faint and you know they have low blood sugar, it's better to elevate their feet a little bit so the blood can go down quicker. But if you think that that person hit their head, you didn't know, and you elevate their feet, what's going to happen? You're increasing the pressure in the brain. So that's compounding the problem. So it's better to let the person lie flat so the blood can gradually work its way up to the brain and not increase the pressure. So if you're in doubt and you haven't seen them, don't elevate their feet. But if it's safe to elevate their feet, they will come around quicker. Like say for instance, an athlete that's running and, dehydrated or whatever, it's not a problem that they hit their head. they come around much quicker doing that. Whatever you do, don't throw alcohol in their face. How many of you all aware people do that still to wake up, to make them come around?
Yeah, give them some Jack Daniels.
Anyone what? I know the bride, and the people in Jamaica, the women tell me in Jamaica they did it too.
Yeah.
Yes,
If
you
you
do
drink
it.
overnight and you feel, and they say give them back the same thing you drink last night.
Yeah, so wake them up. Gentlemen, alcohol was never meant. It's meant to sanitize equipment, whether it's for rubbing. It's never meant to be put on the face because it should not be inhaled into the lungs. So that's what we used to do to wake them up. Now cold water is one thing. Cold water is okay, but not alcohol or bay rum, and that's what they used to do years ago. So in your first aid kit here that I have made up, there's smelling salts. That's your best bet. And it's safe. It's not that ammonia that will go to your brain. You just put it close to it. It's a stimulant. And years ago, we couldn't find it. You realize that. In schools, they used to use it. But that's the best. You need to take advantage of that, because when they're sitting up and you give them that, they will usually take a deep breath and come around, if it's simple thinking. Now, if it doesn't work, then you know you got bigger problems. So in this first aid kit, which I'm going to show you all what's in there, there's a little thing of what we call smelling salts. No alcohol, no simple ammonia by itself, nothing like that. This is, and it does have a stimulant in it. The diabetes. We're trying to get away from giving drinks because it takes longer for it to absorb. If they usually get nauseated, diabetes, they will get nauseated. And if you give them something to drink, it'll make the nausea worse. And when they vomit, it could make the situation worse. Because remember, vomiting and diarrhea causes sugar to drop because you're losing fluids. So we're recommending, and there's none here, but last time I recommended, you can get the glucose tablets now. And they easily dissolve in your mouth. So it gives you the amount of glucose. That's what they say, glucose tablets. So if you don't have them, the orange juice is okay, but not a full bottle of orange juice. And orange juice doesn't have as much sugar as a glucose tablet does. Okay, it doesn't have as much glucose. So remember, make sure that the person isn't nauseated, because if not, you're going to compound the problem by giving them something to drink. Never give candy like we used to do years ago, because if the person goes, and can you imagine sucking a candy? It's going to take ages for that sugar to come out. Let me remind you, or maybe not remind you, you might never knew. Someone whose sugar is very high, their breath smells like candy. Sweet. It's called fruity breath. And I can tell you, it is real. As a young nurse, I went on an ambulance call to a person who had diabetes. I didn't know what I was getting into. I didn't know if it was low or high. When I bent over the person to take vital signs, I didn't see anything, candies or anything around there. And the breath just knocked me. I thought, wow, that is exactly what I had studied. And I knew right away that she needed insulin. If I had given her glucose tablet, thinking that she needed more sugar, I would have compounded it. And of course, I had the equipment to take blood sugars and stuff like that. But remember, a fruity breath in someone who's very, very drowsy and haven't had a candy or anything sweet to eat is not a good sign. It means the sugar is high, never low, okay? And you can't correct that most of the time, because that means the person needs insulin, unless the person gives themselves insulin. A lot of people do that. But for first aiders, you might not have that. But don't give sugar for that fruity breath. You're going to compound the problem. All right, any question? I noticed, who ordered food? Who asked for food? I thought it was You ready to eat? Because that food's going to get cold. What do we, because I would like to go through, would you all prefer to take your break now and eat the pizza now since it's hot?
It's a referendum. Let's see.
What do you want? Because I can do some stuff to get my, where are you going?
What is it I want to break? You see? 2 people already.
No, y'all are drinking water, that's why you have, that's good, that's good. No, seriously, I'm flexible, but I'm concerned if that gets cold, y'all not gonna enjoy it.
Break time.
You all take a 15-minute break while I'm trying to get myself organized here.
Sure.
And make sure you go to the bathroom when you come back, so you don't have to leave again. Can I have that list so I can put those names on this?
I was gonna give you a copy.
You got it, okay, you're gonna give me a copy?
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
And there's enough here for you as well.
Yes, well, let me take mine out first
Yeah,
because.
ladies before gentlemen.
Let me get some plates.
Ladies before gentlemen, I'm sorry, but I will do that. I'll just put it up here.
Sure.
Things you take care of.
I think Nevada went
Yeah, I prefer to. I have to.
or maybe
Thank you. So, are you Mr. Jones?
Yes, I am.
Dr. Jones, Dr. Jones.
Mr. Jones, that's Mr. Jones.
Dr. Jones, Dr. Jones.
This is very, very British, Jones.
Yes.
Jones.
Oops, that's not my foot.
That's against the law,
Are
Mr.
they all the
Jones.
same thing? Nope, that's not my vinegar. There's no pineapple. You know what it is, Mr. Jones?
You know what is behind there? You know what that is? Oh, it's in the
Ham and pineapple. There's mine. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
There it
I
is.
think someone will say.
I see.
Oh, this is Hawaiian.
Mhm.
So it's right here.
Yes, sir. I found it. Hi.
Okay.
All right. I'll just drink my
Can you
water.
have some wings as
No,
well?
they're hot. That's fine. Thank you. You guys not gonna have pizza?
No, the wings are not
I'm on a
hot.
diet.
They're
Let's
Well,
go.
yes, pizza, best pizza's better than nothing.
Ready now?
of course ready.
Guys,
Guys,
guys, come on. Yeah.
Open the chicken.
Bukalu.
I'm on a diet. I'm on a diet also.
Hey, the wing is for everybody.
Don't worry, man. I'll give you some $1.
Guys, remember to sanitize, clean hands. Don't want to sick people tomorrow, please.
Right? Yes, no.
Social distance, okay?
Yeah, better get used to it because it's gonna come back.
Yeah. You do it, Ellie. I'm gonna die.
Nurse.
You're gonna die.
Air talks, guys. Dad, walk.
Is everybody here gonna do CPR? Because I only have 8 mannequins.
Under one person. You have 9 persons here today.
So, eight persons gonna do the CPR?
Yeah, I'll observe.
You'll observe?
Yeah.
You're gonna switch and give your mannequin as well.
It's better than you saying 4 people will be doing CPR. Yeah, that's gonna have 4 will be.
It's okay? Do you want?
What else?
I think I can see more.
No, she's say break time.
Yeah, break time. You want light?
Oh,
Who turned it on? That was good.
very good.
What do you do with my dolls over there?
Where's the guy that was looking at the press?
Let's not talk no more about that. Oh, wait. That is not within this training.
I don't know where to aim it.
Wrong class. Wrong class. Security.
Init ba? Tapos ganyan-ganyan ka. Magtitaging ka. Unang tatawag daw nakapang jogging. So ano daw? You want to spend the week groups with summer. I never see you
I just observe, okay?
No, I'm gonna teach you CPR.
I just observe.
Who's gonna be up, sir? I got 8 mannequins
I
here.
just observe.
Oh, none of you gonna do CPR. We're gonna swap. The first one that finishes will sanitize and do the other one. Because remember, we're not breathing.
after the heart attack anybody.
Where's the garbage?
Eat coffee, didn't you? Someone offer you coffee.
Do you know what is the reason they are eating outside in the group? Because it's wrong situation. Very wrong situation. That is the
Someone
reason.
offer you coffee, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that.
But the manager no, the other manager no, but in the group leads.
Who offer you coffee? Did it? Rose?
Yeah.
Rose?
But not only for me, only for people.
Rose?
But when the
Rose?
people not talking to you and send message, wrong message, it's not my problem.
No,
Is it Rose?
no, silence is consent. You need to defend yourself.
No,
If you
I talk-
explain to the, if you explain
Yeah,
that
you
was
need to
such,
explain.
No,
he's
I-
not, listen, he's hearing from somebody else.
Yeah,
So you
but
have to.
You need to tell him
You
what,
need to explain
what,
yourself.
what. You didn't explain, so you
Yeah.
can't say that's not right.
I'm talking with the manager.
No, it's in the group, the manager
You
here
have
is
to.
not in the
You have to
group.
reply to the.
So you need to reply to the message
Don't
in the
keep
group.
quiet.
You understand? Silence is consent. That means you are not
You are.
consent.
Yeah. It means you
I
accept
was
it.
talking with the hierarchy, with the other people, and Mr. Trump no at the moment. Somebody can say, read everything in the group, but it's funny, but it's not for me. I don't play it.
Yeah. That's good, maybe on.
Next time, video, you bring coffee for us.
Yeah.
We drink coffee together.
No, I don't ask for coffee anymore.
I see you drink coffee. That's why I think you drink coffee. I don't see you.
I don't ask for anyone.
On diet? Enough wings. I'll get a few wings and a few.
That's why when I think you drink coffee.
2 weeks gone already. Like, I'm from Colombia, I drink coffee.
I'm from Jamaica, where's the best coffee? We do I don't drink coffee.
No, that's like the best coffee.
Jamaica is the
Yes,
best
with
coffee,
that.
okay?
Coffee.
You have to bring us your coffee.
That's the best coffee, okay?
We need to try your coffee.
I like Blue Mountain because I taste it.
International. You have many types.
After this,
Like Colombian coffee, you know.
You know the
Every country say it's the best coffee.
Okay. Colombia, okay.
Adrian.
Yeah, no.
Adrian.
That's what from Colombia.
You need to bring us your coffee.
Yeah, bring me some when I go back.
this is okay with the, people time.
Like a one buck
You
ladies.
feeling unwell?
I can bring a lot, right? I can bring a lot.
I mean, I told you this already.
Then when I start,
You need to try your coffee.
You're not finished? You won't come back, you're not coming back.
Yes, ma'am.
When I go,
Alright, be careful.
I ask you and the baby, the infant, what you want.
Are you planning to go this year?
We're gonna have to wait.